we've got one extra interviewee that I wasn't expecting there.
Right.
little puppy.
So I apologize, but I got her as a foster yesterday afternoon. And so she wants to sit in my lap. And I'm like, okay, you can. There she is.
Oh. What's her name?
Well, right now it's Tidbit.
Okay, but it might change.
And she will be taking all of our questions today, by the way.
Okay, yes. if there's any difficult questions, we'll refer to it. Yeah. So, well, Tim, whilst I'm talking to you, congratulations on the film, all of you. First of all, I found it very powerful and moving. I was welling up kind of all the way through, and also very thought-provoking as well. And yeah, so Tim, it kind of really starts with you, because it was your idea in 2016, I think, to go on tour of the South. And could you sort of take us back to then and what sort of sparked the initial idea and which states you wanted to go to?
So I'm glad you asked, because it was not my idea, so I can get that right out of the way. I mean, it became my idea, but it became all of our ideas. The chorus started in 1978. In 1981, it took a national tour of 9 cities across the country, helping to start gay choruses, and now it's a worldwide movement. So we were facing our 40th anniversary, and we decided to take a tour, because the choir does tour, and we decided to go to mainland China. And that was becoming a little difficult, and the ROI was not great with considering state-owned media. We were not going to make an impact, and we were realizing that when the election happened. And literally within a day or two, our board chair called and said, why are we spending all this money to go to China? We need to go to the South. His name is Steve Huffines. He's in the film from Birmingham. So he grew up as a preacher's kid in Birmingham. So this was just part of his DNA of, I want to take the choir home and see if we can make a difference. And then we, interestingly enough, put out a press release that Gay Choir takes a tour of red states. And then people were like, there are 33 of those. So we're like, okay, we should narrow that down. No longer the red state tour. So, and then as the stories told in the film, but we did decide to go to Mississippi and North Carolina, which have the worst laws, discrimination laws on their books. And then we just got a map literally and went, okay, how many states can we get to between Mississippi and North Carolina? And we ended up with Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina, and South Carolina.
And Terrance, when you heard that this was going to happen, why did you want to be involved? And also, could you tell us a little bit about the membership of the Oakland Interfaith Gospel Chorus as well, Gospel Choir?
Well, this tour, what is our mission? We are 23 faiths represented. The organization has about 300 singers between the 3 choirs. And when we heard about this, we were like, this is us, we have to go. And our then executive director picked up the phone and called and said, hello, this is so exciting, you have to let us come, you have to. And they called, Tim and the SFGMC called back maybe 2 days later and said, yes. And that started the shenanigans.
And David, you obviously heard about this and what became your feature debut, I think, documentary. Why did you think it was going to make a good documentary, essentially?
I knew the power of the music and the message of each of the chorus and the choir. And, I was looking for stories that would test the waters of the divisiveness of the country. I was really shook by the election and by what happened and how things were going. And that was literally the only story that I saw that I felt, most importantly, group of people that stood a chance at testing those waters and bringing some hope and forging a path forward. And obviously then when we met them, I mean, that's really when we knew we had a special story was when we got together and we started working together. It's really important for me to say, and we didn't make a film about the chorus in the Oakland Choir. We made a film with them, and that truly was the experience and why it was so meaningful.
Yes, I mean, it very much feels like that you're kind of, you're on the tour bus and the access feels very intimate. It feels like we're kind of on tour with you rather than kind of observing from a distance. Yeah.
You mean they were on the bus with us for the drag show, the bus drag show, which, by the way, the only thing allowed was you had to put all of your drag stuff in what would fit in an overhead bin, and then they changed in the bathroom or in the back. So it's a little piece that is never told. Like, where do they have all that in a small bag?
Okay, they need to have that as a challenge on Drag Race, don't they?
Yeah.
Drag on a bus, and you're only allowed a very small bag.
Yes.
Big challenge for a lot of them. I think one of the there's so much in the film, but I think one of the things is quite a sort of powerful reminder that preconceptions kind of cut both ways. And one scene that kind of illustrates that is when Tim's going along for the interview with the conservative radio show, and we sort of think, oh well, we know how that is out, and then it's kind of different. What kind of surprised you about maybe how welcoming some people were, or civil some people were, that you kind of weren't expecting? Do you each have, I mean, Terrance, do you have something on that?
Well, it was very interesting to see, the reception that the film got, and how much more open some people were in the South than I would have previously thought.
And was there anything particular that stood out to you, David, or to you, Tim, about the kind of reception that you received while you were on tour?
Yes, we were stunned. We were absolutely stunned. And that places were packed. I mean, just packed. We were really surprised with, the turnout, because there's no guarantee. I mean, you don't know. And you don't know at our first stop in Jackson, Mississippi, on a weekend when basically the town empties because it's a state capital, and on a Sunday night, and here we are, the Gay Men's Chorus, and it just, the roof blew off. I will say that that was amazing. The next day when we went to the Brown AME Chapel and Edmund Pettus Bridge, and it was just us, that was the pivotal moment of the tour for the participants, because we were there and we realized, wow, this is huge. I mean, we were in the place where a revolution was birthed, and we're part of one. Whether you want to talk about them in the same breath or not, it doesn't matter. We felt that to our very core, and it changed. I think it changed the rest of the tour.
Well, I think any marginalized person will identify with this film. It's not just a gay men's film.
I think what's interesting, what really did it for me was actually, well, the first answer to your question is, sadly in our day and age, what's shocking is to be positive, right? Like the positive outcomes and hope is what's shocking in this day and age. And that's what the reception was. And that was the experience that we had. And there was no other way to make this film than to show the true experience that the chorus and the choir had. And then when Tim was giving that interview to the radio station, first of all, we were all very bummed that it turned out to be such a positive conversation. And then it was the genius of our editor, Jeff Gilbert, that really found that scene and made it into the transformative moment of the entire film. And it is till this day one of my favorite moments. But Tim says something in that scene that really did it for me and really, helped paint the direction of the film and also, I don't know, made it all worth it, right? And saying that, this tour and this story and even this film is to Terrance's point, is not about just the LGBT community, but it's about the other. Anyone who's treated and who is oppressed and who experiences, what it means to be the other. We all need to come together and we need to unite forces and create one movement. Because if we are all scattered and doing our own thing, we're just basically playing into the narrative that, that the people that are oppressing us want us to do. So we really need to come together. And I feel like that's one thing that, the film has the intention to do. I don't know how well it does it, but it definitely has the heart and the intention to do. And bringing the San Francisco chorus and the Oakland choir together is, kind of proof of how, transformative it can be.
And why was it important, Tim, you might want to ask this one, to reach out to local members of the LGBT community in the places that you went to? So not just to speak to people whose minds you hoped you might open,
right.
but also to meet them.
It was really important. The whole point of this tour in the beginning was for us to go to the South and lift up our brothers and sisters across the South who we know because of their laws and because of the church, and they are downtrodden. I'm going to use a good old Baptist word. They're just downtrodden and backslidden. So Terrance got that one. That one will go over people's heads. But before, David has mentioned this often, before we went on tour, we took a group first and met in each of the 5 cities with about 20 LGBTQ organizations. We had them for dinner. We talked about what can we do. And the interesting thing is that after some of those people had never met each other. These are tiny organizations compared to what we are used to in our big cities. And they met each other and they learned, and that was an amazing thing to watch. And so that sort of web that we helped create in those communities continues today. And it's, the ramifications of this tour are many, and many we don't even know about.
There was a really profound moment to that question. We were screening the film in a very small town in Tennessee. And this young girl, she was there with her mother and some friends. She was probably in her early 20s or late teens. In the Q&A, she raised her hand and she said, I don't have a question, but I want to share a story. And that she was going to school in New York when the film premiered at Tribeca, and she went to see the film. And after seeing the film, and not the film itself, but seeing the people from the South that we portrayed in the film, she was inspired to go back home and start her own activist community. So she left New York and went back to her small town in Tennessee to kind of, exist there and be there, and not only to be fighting the good fight, but also to be living a full life, and for me, that's really important, that people understand that you can be gay and you can, and you can be celebrated, living in these areas that we're told you can't.
And David mentioned the power of music and human voice and song. Maybe, and Terrance and Tim, would you like to say something just about that for both those who are singing, because they're obviously getting something out of it too, and the people who are receiving it?
Terrance, you go first.
Well, I've been blessed with the ability to collect children. On the tour, one young man was so affected in Birmingham that he caught the bus 12 hours to our next stop and wanted to talk to me, but was scared to talk to me. So my choir, doing what they do, put their noses in other people's business, found me and put me and him together. And through this time, he is now one of my new children. I won't say his name because I don't have his permission, but we talk regularly. And his life has changed. He's become much more secure of who he is. I tell him to stand up and be tall, and he's gotten 4 promotions and reconnected with his mother because he told her, I have a new family. I introduced him to my sisters, and they're like, if they don't love you, you don't worry about it, baby. We love you. You can come see us. And so he told them that, and his family was like, wait a minute, we're your family. So now he has 2 families who love and adore him, and his whole life trajectory has changed. And it's because of the music and the tour.
Yeah, the power of music. That's a phrase that people, I'm using air quotes because it's so trite and overused, and ultimately foundationally true. And I certainly found this out in now what's the first pandemic that we lived through, of the power of music through the AIDS pandemic was palpable everywhere. it was different because we could hold each other and touch each other and nurture each other, as opposed to the COVID pandemic that we're in right now. But the power of music is demonstrated in the film so beautifully. And I think one of them is when the families have driven hundreds of miles to Charlotte, and we're all, which happened at every concert. It's just they filmed the Charlotte one, and people that had been estranged from their family decided, okay, all right, well, he's going to be within 500 miles or 400 miles. We'll drive and watch this thing. And then this coming together where they're all touching and holding, pre-COVID people, is you watch barriers break before your eyes. And yeah, you can't deny that power.
Tim, David, and Terrance, thanks very much. Congratulations on the film. Looking forward to
Thank you, James.
seeing when it gets broadcast. Bye.
Appreciate it.